Hi Kipsters, Miss S here with your second grade read aloud for today. I hope you guys had an amazing weekend, and I had the best time last Friday seeing so many of you guys show up to our Zoom meeting. It just made my week to see all your smiling faces, so thanks to the friends that were there and participated with us, and I'm really looking forward to our next Zoom meeting so that even more of our friends can show up. So thank you guys for participating in that, and let's jump into text study for today. So today we'll be working with our text that we've been working with a lot this week, which is Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. Remember, this is a nonfiction text all about Martin Luther King Jr. and about his legacy and how he became a civil rights activist. And it was also, this text is also a lot about the March on Washington and the really famous day that it was and the impact that Martin Luther King Jr. had on this day. And the skill that we'll be practicing today is answering questions using details from the text. So as I said last time we practiced this skill, it's really important that you guys practice this not only for text study questions, but for questions in all subjects on your quizzes and tests. It'll help you become better test takers if you guys practice this skill. So the first question we'll be answering today is, what were sit-ins? And why did Black people participate in them? What were sit-ins and why did Black people participate in them? So as always, friends, I'm going to be answering this question and following our steps, and you guys are going to watch me do that. So step number 1, say the question in your own words. So if I'm looking at this question, what were sit-ins and why did Black people participate in them? One way I might say this is, what was the impact of sit-ins and why was it important for Black people to be a part of them? That's just one way that I might rephrase the question so that I understand it even better so I can answer it. Step 2, think about where to look for the answer. So I know you guys don't have the text in front of you, but I'm going to show you how I figured out where to look. I remember somewhere in the middle of the text the author mentioning sit-ins. So I'm going to flip to the page where I remember the author mentioning sit-ins. And I found this page right here. Just to refresh your memory, since I just said that we don't have the text in front of us, I'm going to tell us what sit-ins were exactly. There have been sit-ins in many cities. At sit-ins, Black people take seats in white-only restaurants or theaters, and they refuse to leave. Often, they are dragged out. Sometimes they are put in jail. There have been protest marches in many southern cities and towns. People hold signs, they sing songs. So that helps us move into step 3. Scan the text for important details in words and pictures. We can clearly see on this page that the author is giving us a definition for sit-ins. The author tells us exactly what sit-ins are. It says that sit-ins were Black people taking seats in white-only restaurants and theaters. And then something I noticed on this page, because another part of our question is, remember that we also have to answer why Black people participated in sit-ins. Looking at this second part right here, it says that there have been protest marches in many southern cities and towns. People hold signs, they sing songs. So I'm noticing that the author is telling us ways that people are protesting segregation or ways they are fighting against segregation. Remember, segregation is when we used to have Black and white people separate in restaurants and theaters and many public places. There used to be laws that allowed this. Obviously, we don't have these laws anymore, but this was a time when there was segregation. So what I'm noticing is the author is describing ways that people protested, and on the same couple pages, the author is telling us that sit-ins were a way for people to protest against segregation. So looking at step 4, answering the question. When I look at this question, what were sit-ins and why did Black people participate in them? I would say that sit-ins after looking at our text, sit-ins were when Black people would take seats in white-only restaurants, and Black people participated in them because it was a way for people to protest against segregation. So that's how I answered our question using our steps. Now I'll need your guys' help to help us answer the second question. So the second question is, why did Martin Luther King Jr. know what it was like to be a Black person in the South? Why did Martin Luther King Jr. know what it was like to be a Black person in the South? So just to remember, friends, being a Black person in the South, especially during this time period, was extremely difficult. As you guys just saw from that one page, but all throughout this text, there are so many ways in which Black people were not treated fairly, especially in the South, because of these segregation laws. So let's go ahead and follow our steps to answer the question. Step 1, say the question in your own words. So I want you guys to take a look at this. I'll give you a few seconds, and I want you to think how you might rephrase this question in your own words. How might you say this in your own words? You can better answer the question. Great job. So friends, one way that I might rephrase this, my own way to help me answer the question, is I might say something like, why did Martin Luther King Jr. understand how hard it was to be a Black person in the South, especially during this time period? Because it was very difficult. So why did he understand what that was like? Step 2, think of where to look for the answer. So as I said before, I'm the only one with a text here, so I'm just going to flip to the part where I think I found the answer. So right here, this describes Martin Luther King Jr. in the beginning of his life and how he grew up. Let's see if we can try to find an answer here. So that brings us into step 3, scan the text for important details in words and pictures. So I'm going to read this section of the text to you just to refresh our memories. The man's name is Martin Luther King Jr. He is a preacher and the son of a preacher. He has grown up in Georgia. He knows all about what it is like to be a Black person in the South. Wait a second, friends. I see words that are familiar here. Also, just a reminder, Georgia is a southern state. So thinking, to try to answer this question, step 4 is answering the question. I want you guys to think, why did Martin Luther King Jr. know what it was like to be a Black person in the South? Go ahead and answer to the person next to you or to yourself. I'll give you guys a few seconds. So answer this question. Why did Martin Luther King Jr. know what it was like to be a Black person in the South? We know that he grew up in Georgia. Why would he know what it's like to be a Black person from the South and how hard that would be? Why did he understand? Yes, friends, so he understood what it was like to be a Black person from the South because he was a Black person from the South. He grew up in Georgia, which was a southern state. And Georgia was one of the states that had very harsh segregation laws that kept Black and white people apart. So he understood how hard that was, and that was one of the reasons why he was fighting for more equality and to fight against segregation laws. All right, friends, great job. Now it's your turn to go into Google Classroom and answer our last question. I'll go ahead and flip to the page and read the question for you if you need to. So I'm going to quickly read this section of text and then I'll read the question. Dr. King is a man of peace, but he is also a fighter. He doesn't use his fists or weapons, he uses words. So our question in Google Classroom is, how did Martin Luther King Jr. fight racial inequality and segregation? A, he fought with his fists. B, he fought with weapons. C, he fought with his words. D, he fought with violence. Which one do you think, friends? All right, friends, thanks for being a part of our text study lesson for today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.